Hello, welcome to the Monday, December 12th edition of the Preps Extra Podcast. I'm Patrick Prince, joined by Dean Rule and Barry Lewis. We've been coming at you all season. We're a couple of weeks from Christmas. We're about a week and a couple of days away from signing day. A lot to talk about coming up, but let's start with kind of recapping the football season. Sadly, football season is high school football season is totally over. It's always a sad thing to say. So let's look back a little bit. Barry, we'll ask Dean the same question, but Barry, the best thing you saw this season was what?
Well, a few things that sort of stand out to me in football season was what a way back in August for it to start with over 20,000 fans at H.A. Chapman Stadium. Just see over 20,000 fans again at a state high school football game. Wow, what a way to start the season it was, as Bixby gave everyone a preview of the juggernaut team it turned out to be again. So that was really interesting. And then when I think of a lot of my best things are like Bixby oriented. So, but that's just the way it played out. I think of the Bixby Jinx game. There was such a great national, the first Bixby Jinx game, which Jinx pulled off the upset, ending Bixby's 58 game winning streak. It was on national TV. What a great national showcase for state of Oklahoma football. It was a great game, in a great atmosphere that night. And then you had a week later, Bixby coming out and for the Today Show, getting more national publicity. So that was really fun. And then another moment that stands out, and Dean was there for this game, was Rogers' season finale when they were going for their first winning season since 2006. It was what many would have considered a meaningless regular season finale, but it meant a whole lot for the teams involved. Rogers and Edison. Rogers with the dramatic finish gets it wasn't playing for a playoff berth, but it got its first winning record since 06 and only like its second in almost 40 years. And just to see the joy in their faces and the way they pulled it off, the victory, it was just a really memorable night, and see how happy they were at the end of the game. And it was sort of off the radar of most people, but at Will Rogers, it was quite the moment.
Dean, how about you? What stands out in your first year on this end of the state covering high school football? How did it go for you?
So yeah, Barry hit on a lot of great moments there, and I share some of those moments with Barry. But in the name of just being different from Barry, I think when you say what was special or what was memorable about this season, I think I got to point to Jinx making a 19-point comeback in the fourth quarter against Mustang on a freezing cold night in Oklahoma. Super crazy game right there, and it set Jinx up to play Bixby again in the semifinals of the 6A1 playoffs. A team that had kind of been just counted out there and into the fourth. What a special comeback for them. And another thing that I really found special about this year was when I took a nice little. I always enjoy going out to the more rural areas, get out of the city every once in a while. And I went down to Beggs for a game this year, and they had a whole ceremony. They renamed the field after Rodney Tate, the legendary running back out of Beggs, who played in the NFL. So I got to meet him, and he contributed to that story, and it was a really cool moment.
Most surprising thing this year. Barry, start with you.
I'd say the most surprising thing, well, 6 overtimes. I never thought I'd do a 6 overtime game. Owasso beating Union in the 6A1 semifinals. So that was surprising. And it was surprising in a lot of ways that Owasso won and that they went 6 overtimes. And Wagner, even though I had said you can never discount a Dale Condit coach team, still Wagner, after losing 42-0 over to Cushing in the regular season, beating Cushing in the state title game in the way they did it, that was surprising. And also Muskogee going from 2 wins to the semifinals this year. I think those are the most surprising things this year for me.
Dean?
Yeah, I know me and Barry share that thought on Muskogee. I think that's super surprising for what they were able to accomplish. Something more recent, this might be a little recency bias, but seeing Kirk Francis throw for over 600 yards in a state championship game, something that, you know, I've only been covering high school sports for about 4 or 5 months now. Barry's been covering it for however long. He said he's never seen a 600-yard performance, so I'll say that's surprising to be able to go out and see that. And you know, just to steal another one off Barry, I think Rogers and some of these Tulsa public schools, some of the seasons that they had, I think McLean's one of them you can point to, as well as Rogers, for, you know, getting to the playoffs, something that they're not in recent history they've not excelled at. To see them get in there and Rogers have a winning season, those are some surprising things that I think I'll remember from this season pretty vividly.
I think for me, guys, I'll throw one out here, was Rejoice Christian losing the way they did in the first round of the playoffs. I really thought it was going to end up being a storybook season for them. You know, Chance Wilson gets hurt early. He comes, you know, wasn't a major injury. He comes back in time for the playoffs. So everybody in Rejoice is, you know, sigh of relief there. And I thought they just would pick up where they left off. I really did. And for them to, you know, I thought we were on a collision course between them and Washington for a state title matchup, and I was really looking forward to it. So for them not only to lose, but lose as convincingly as they did in the first round, that was really, really shocking. So, okay, guys, let's move on to maybe let's talk about some players that maybe we didn't hear a ton about this season, but that you think we're going to hear about next season. Barry, start with you. Give us a couple.
Well, we heard about some of these players, but they weren't really at the forefront. They were overshadowed. I think Gino Boyd from Union could have a really break. I mean, well, he's had a breakout last couple of years, but he's been overshadowed a little bit off the radar. But he had back-to-back 4 touchdown catch games late in the season, and I think he's someone that is really going to be in the spotlight next year in his senior season. And then, of course, Cale Marley, Rejoice's quarterback. What a revelation he was in the 3 games that he played. Well, Chance Wilson was injured. He showed that he could definitely be one of the top quarterbacks in the area next year. So those are 2 guys who sort of may not have been on everybody's radar, at least at the start of the year, but they really impressed during the season.
Dean, what about you?
Yeah, I'll cheat a little bit on my first one because I think we have heard a lot about this kid, but he's only a sophomore somehow. I point to Muskogee again, Jamarian Ficklin. I think he's just going to get better as time goes on, and he's going to be a junior next year. I think we're really on the cusp of getting to see him break out and become a monumental guy in this high school landscape in Oklahoma. Some lesser known players that I think really could solidify themselves down the road is Hudson Ball over in Jenks. Barry, I know you. I think it was you. Maybe it was Bill. So somebody's really high on him, and after taking some time to look into it, yeah, I think he'll be the real deal. I look forward to, just because of his size and how big he is, and where they choose to use him. I think it's going to be super interesting to follow. And then going even younger, this kid's only a freshman, but Barry, I know we saw it a little bit when Bixby played in the state championship game, what this kid's capable of in the offensive game, but defensively, I look to linebacker Cord Nolan. This kid can hit hard. He's only I talked to him, he was 14. He's probably 15 by now. But he can hit hard. He showed it in the opening game when they played Owasso at H.A. Chapman Stadium. And then in the state championship game, he caught about 45-yard touchdown on a fake punt, and he dragged 2 players into the end zone with him. So I think he's just got that raw ability. I think he's going to become a big deal pretty soon.
I'm with Dean on that one, Patrick. If he had not mentioned him just now, I was going to throw him in there too.
Did the Presley, who's a freshman at Bixby, did he play much this year on varsity?
No.
Nope.
So he's certainly a player to watch in the future.
Yeah, anytime you have a Presley at a Bixby, you gotta. Is he the same type of player as his brothers? Barry, give us just. I mean, I know that he was only a freshman this year, but what do we know so far?
He's a big kid.
He's a big kid. I don't think he's, from what I've heard from Bill, because I have not seen him play. Bill has actually seen him play, and look for him to be, I guess, more of a standout on the defensive side of the ball.
Okay. All right. I want to mention, guys. So I've been doing the player diary with Chance Wilson every week with Rejoice, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been kind of cool picking his brain and getting him to talk about things. And I've been kind of holding on to this one for a while. Last night we talked about his decision to leave Owasso and enroll at a smaller school, Rejoice. As Barry well knows, he's a multi-sport star and extremely talented, and just didn't want to specialize. He wanted to continue playing all three sports, and he thought he had a better chance of doing that at a smaller school. So following his 8th grade year, going into his 9th grade year, he enrolled at Rejoice, which I kind of asked him, I'm like, was it just a slam dunk that you're going to go to Rejoice, at a Owasso school, if you're leaving Owasso high schools? And he said, actually, no, it wasn't. So the story about how Rejoice kind of came on his radar is kind of interesting, and we'll kind of delve into that. So that'll be in the Wednesday paper as usual, and online Tuesday night. So it's been kind of fun, Barry. I'm glad we kind of came up with this assignment. It's been good.
And talk about multi-sport athletes. I think of Dallas Keuchel and Archie Bradley, who had major league pitching success, and they were multi-sport athletes. Dallas Keuchel was a 3-sport athlete. He was a really good quarterback at Bishop Kelly, basketball player, and of course he's had a great Major League Baseball career. Was a Cy Young winner, 5-time Gold Glove winner, all types of awards. And Archie Bradley, of course, has made a really nice living and in baseball and still in the majors. He was a really good quarterback. He was like I remember when he was on one of our preseason covers, he was one of our 4 top players in the area as a broken arrow quarterback. So I think there's a lot to be said for not specializing in a sport. Each person has their own situation, but I like to see kids receiving the freedom to play multiple sports.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little high school basketball, which now basketball season is here and upon us. Last Wednesday, the OSSAA had a meeting where the popular topic of shot clocks were discussed. Barry, why don't you do 2 things? I know you and I talked about this on a podcast months and months ago. Where do we stand on shot clocks? And is it a good idea? I'll just ask that question of you again. And Dean will have you weigh in on that question too.
I'm probably not as for a shot clock as a lot of people are, although talking to so many coaches who are in favor of it, I guess they've won me over. But I think in order to implement the shot clock, there's still a lot of logistics you have to work out, like having a shot clock operator, buying the equipment. And it's not the easiest job. So
right,
do it correctly. Yeah. So there's a lot of things to work out, but I guess I've been won over, although there's still some work to do, as Dean will tell us before it gets implemented. Dean, why don't you catch us up on where the process exactly stands right now?
Yeah, so I think the OSSAA is doing their due diligence and wanting to really survey this and make sure it's a decision that they're happy with. I think that right now you're looking at we're still a season or 2 out from this, and when it truly gets implemented and at what levels it gets implemented, they're still looking at all that. And I think in their own words, they said some of those lower classifications, this isn't as favorable. Whereas at the higher one, you do get a lot of coaches who are for this, and when you talk to these coaches, it's apparent. I think talking with some coaches, like Barry said, finding the right number of officials to be able to do this and run the shot clock and keep an eye on it. There are roadblocks here, but whether or not this is something that goes through, I would say it's inevitable. But there's still some humps that they're trying to iron out and make sure they make the right decision for everybody on a class by class basis.
I remember writing about this topic in the 80s, so it's not a new topic. It's just gaining steam. And yeah, probably in the games I cover for the most part, because most of the time I'm seeing the larger classification teams, having a shot clock, whether it's 35 seconds or 30, it rarely comes into play right now, because most teams don't hold it for more than 30 seconds or have no interest in doing it or can't because defenses are can be so tenacious. But I do know at the lower levels that I see teams try to take the air out of the ball, and it is a strategy. So I've got mixed feelings on this subject. It's hard to see how you can implement it, by classification though. So, because there's so many crossover games, it's not like in football where you're playing districts. And I would much rather see districts in basketball. If we want to talk about changes that need to be made and things I've been writing about for 30 years, that's another thing. Why can't basketball go to districts? I'd like to see it. So it'll be interesting. I think the shot clock though is inevitable. I'll agree with Dean on that.
Why don't they have districts in basketball, Barry?
I mean, again, it's one of these where I think Tulsa area schools really like it, and Oklahoma City area schools don't. It's one of those things. There's for the longest time, there's been this divide, just like with the shot clock. So, granted, if you went to that, you wouldn't have all the Frontier Valley Conference schools together. Probably, and Frontier Valley Conference plays their games are so exciting. So that would be a negative if you went to districts, is that you'd break up the Frontier Valley Conference as far as everyone playing each other. But I think going to districts would solve a lot of things. It would take, in football, the postseason, everything is decided on the field. I'd love to see that in basketball too. Everything decided on the court and not getting ranking, everything being so much of the postseason being decided by who ranks who what. I get so many complaints from coaches when the rankings are submitted, saying that, coaches manipulate the rankings, for lack of a better term. And I'd like to get rid of all that. Get rid of all these coaches' rankings as far as determining postseason positions. So basketball districts would eliminate that.
Interesting point. All right, guys, let's go back to football for a minute, because I forgot that we were going to talk about our picks. We have fun with the picks, and readers kind of get into it, and we have a student picker, every week, and we've had Ella Drake, of course, all through the playoffs. It was great to have her doing some picks. Barry, how did we end up on the picks? Just kind of generally give us a rundown here.
Well, Bryce McInnes was the big winner. My goodness, he came back and was the winner, one going away. So we want to wish Bryce the best as he moves on to another position in journalism. Did a great job for us. So, and he certainly leaves on a high note, winning our weekly picks. So congratulations to Bryce. There was a lot of the rest of the panel. It was pretty congested in the battle for second, third, fourth, fifth. And although some of us, like myself, sort of crashed and burned on the picks in the last couple weeks. But again, it was fun, and I want to congratulate you, Patrick, and Ella Drake, our student picker. You're the only ones to pick Fairview to win in class. So congratulations to you. It's always fun seeing the picks. And Dean, I hope you enjoyed participating in it for the first time.
Barry, I appreciate you not bringing up my record right there because I'm pretty sure I finished second to last or last.
We weren't going to say that, Dean. We were going to be nice.
Well, experience can help when it comes to making picks. But that can be valuable. Like when I picked McGinnis to beat Coeta, it's like, been there, done that. I've seen that before. So,
All right, guys, anything else before we get out of here? Anything else on your mind?
just that we've got our basketball season is hitting high gear. The Tournament of Champions, big showcase is only a couple of weeks away, December 28th through the 30th at the BOK Center. So there'll be the 57th annual edition, and just basketball is starting to move into high gear. Saw some exciting action last week, and just can't wait to see more. I think there's some really interesting. I think it's going to be a really interesting season for high school basketball, both boys and girls.
All right, we'll leave it there, guys. Appreciate the knowledge as always, and we'll catch up next week. And then next week's show will kind of be our lead-in to signing day, which is, or the early signing period, which is Wednesday. So appreciate the knowledge. We'll talk later, guys.
All right, sounds good, Patrick.